Hi everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is a drawing that we will be completing in today's video, this fun ocean tide illustration, perfect for summer and lots of fun to do, a lot easier than it looks, I promise. I'll walk you through it step by step and you will get an awesome result just like this one. So if you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe. I also offer extra tutorials over on Patreon. So that's linked in the description below. If you want to check that out and join over there, you get access to exclusive tutorials every month along with sneak peeks of what we're drawing over here on YouTube. And if you join now, you get access to all the tutorials that I've posted thus far, over 2 years worth. So some from last summer, last holiday season as we get into fall and stuff. So go ahead and check that out. And then before we get started on today's video, the only thing that you really need to do is download the color palette. I have it linked in the description below. It's totally free to download. Just save the file to your iPad and then double tap it or click on it and click open in Procreate and it will automatically pop into Procreate so that you can use the same colors as you follow along with the tutorial today. I'll also post the canvas dimensions, color profile, and layers needed on the screen here and in the description below so that you can use those to set up your canvas. So take a minute to get everything ready and then come back and we will get started. Okay, so this is the color palette that we're going to be using, so let's just go ahead and get started. The first thing that we're going to do is set our background color to our sand color, then we'll draw our water on top of that. So on our layer menu, we'll just open that up, click on our background color layer to change the color of our background to this first color on the first row of the color palette. So that's just our base sand color. We have a few more colors here that we'll end up adding some texture and stuff to our sand, but we'll get our water in place first. And in order to do that, we're actually going to start with like the kind of like foamy edge of the water and lay that down. And then we will draw the water like underneath it essentially. So on our layer menu, we're just going to be on layer 1. We're going to grab our first color on the second row now. And the brush that we're going to use for this is going to be under the inking category, the dry ink brush. Just a base dry ink brush. We'll set the size pretty high to maybe like 50% to start, and we'll kind of see how that goes. But let's first draw like the bottom edge that is the edge of our tide. So I'm going to start on the left side here, like maybe a third of the way up or so, and then we're going to kind of draw a wavy line going down into the right a little bit. So I'm zoomed out so I can see my whole canvas. So I'm going to start right about there, and yeah, I'm just going to draw like kind of a wavy line like this, or whatever you want to do. The rest of this is going to be our sand. So that's kind of where I'm at. Now we want to draw like all the rest of the water. So, this is going to be a really fun process, but essentially we're going to draw like a bunch of ovals and different shapes, and then we're going to connect them all and thicken up some of our lines like the water is. So with this being my edge, I'm going to keep here, and I'm just going to draw a few ovals down the edge of the water. So maybe like here, maybe like, or some weird shapes too, kind of close to my first line. Maybe something like this to start. Okay, so that's going to be our start. Now we're going to draw maybe some bigger ones. So up in this area here, I'm going to start and maybe draw like one really big one here. Maybe some kind of smaller ones around that. And maybe some other kind of just medium ones and smaller ones and things like that. Just some here and there. Okay, maybe we'll start like with this and we can always like go through and add some more as we go. But let's start here, and essentially what we're going to do is kind of connect them all, so, and fill in the gaps in between them. So these are all going to stay open though. We're going to leave those all open. We're going to draw around them. So from here I'm going to start on the left side towards the bottom and just kind of draw around this. I'm going to fill this all in with my brush. So you can drag and drop if you want to, but I like the added texture that the brush gives. So I'm just going to kind of keep filling in with my brush. So fill all that in. Again, kind of like thickening up the edges, kind of curving here and there around our pieces. You could even like do a little curve and leave like another little gap or something like that. Okay, so that's mainly what we're doing just for this bottom part here. So we're just kind of thickening it up all the way across, connecting all of our initial shapes there. We can even kind of like extend this a little bit, maybe make some little kind of extra like foamy pieces on the edge, or like make this a little wavier if we want to, anything like that. Okay. Again, just kind of thickening up that top line now. Okay, then we're going to start connecting to some of these other pieces. So now I'm going to start maybe at this next bubble. I'll connect these together, always kind of using like a curvy line or something. Lots of good curves. Thicken those up a little bit. And then we need to connect back to our base potentially. So I can kind of like pick and choose. I can do like here to here and kind of like curve through there. Or I can do that and also maybe even like curve to here or something like that. Okay. So again, just kind of always connecting, and then we start making these other shapes that we'll see the water through. Like this one here, I'll maybe kind of curve these together or just connect them. And then maybe I'll connect these ones a little bit. Always again, like then maybe I'll like connect here to here. And just always try to avoiding any harsh like corners to try to make everything look very like movement focused. There's nothing that we've drawn over here, but I'm still gonna like maybe kind of connect in this direction to kind of create some more shapes. Thicken this up a little. Maybe these ones will just kind of connect like this. Thicken this guy up some more. Curvy, curvy, curvy. Maybe I'll have another piece going like this way to create like another shape kind of right there. Okay, so that's a good start. We're going to keep on going with that. So now I'll connect over here, just always thickening up and connecting with some lines. I just keep saying the same stuff. But just to reiterate, that's all we're really doing. It's a lot easier than it looks, a lot more just like free flowing. Does not need to be too crazy. These two I'll just fully connect. Thicken up, leaving those little windows open. If you ever need to, you can always use your eraser, which I typically just always have set to the monoline brush at like 30 to 40% for my size. And you can even go through and just like erase some more if you need to. The monoline brush will give you like a really smooth edge. So if you want to go back in then with your brush around the edge again and just kind of like give it that texture. But yeah, then now like this is kind of all connected and stuff. I might just go through and make like another connection here somewhere to kind of just fill in this gap a little bit more. Again, make some more curvy like edges and stuff. Things like that. I've really lost this one here, so I'm going to go in with my eraser and just kind of erase through this area some more to give me something there to work with. But again, kind of wavy, wavy, wavy. Thicken things up. Okay, and then I might do like one more like connection here to kind of just make another kind of blobby area like so. Okay, so once everything's kind of nice and smooth and how you want it to look, we are going to go ahead and add in a few more quick details. So essentially just maybe some more quick little like lines that create gaps like this. And then also like some dots and stuff as well to just like be some more little kind of foamy pieces. So like dots, ovals in some of these open areas, or even just like lines or anything, kind of like blobs like so. Just here and there, not a ton. Whatever works, but just to kind of help fill in some more spots. But we want to see a good amount of our water through it, so, you know, maybe about like this looks good to me. That's it for the like starting shape of our water. So I am now going to go to my layer menu and add a layer to the top of my layer menu, drag it below our layer 1 that has our white pieces on it. So this is where we're going to fill in our watercolor. So I'm going to grab my second color on the second row. I'm going to switch my brush this time to the monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. Go ahead and find that. I have my size set to 30%. Opacity is always at 100. And I'm just going to draw a line now under the water line here at the bottom. I want maybe some of this to poke out into the sand. So, you know, you can either fill in these with watercolor or you can leave them sand color. So I'm going to start just off the left edge here, draw underneath this as best as I can, avoiding any spots that I don't want to fill in. Off the right edge so that we're off the edge on both sides and we can fill in above it. So now that's all filled in our watercolor. So again, you can leave these colors sandy or you can fill them in with water, whichever you prefer, like so. Now our main thing is we're going to add a ton of dimension to this, and then we'll finish off our sand and add some little starfishies down, or is that what they are? Starfishes? Down there. So on our layer menu, I'm going to add a layer above this water layer. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask so we only draw within this shape. I'm going to grab my third color on the second row, my darker blue, and that's going to be our color for like the top edge. So again, I'm going to start maybe in the top left corner, make like a little wavy shape going from the left to the right off the edge, and we're going to fill in the top of it. Okay, then I'm going to do the similar thing with this next color. So the fourth color on the second row, now towards this bottom edge. So same thing, kind of following like a similar direction. I'm going to start off the left edge, go off the right edge, fill in below it, and now we're going to blur it together so that this is all like one cohesive piece. So I'm going to go to my wand icon, click Gaussian Blur, and we'll drag that up a ton to maybe like 50 to 60% somewhere in there so we get some really good variation going. If you maybe get like too much of one color, like I feel like this blue is kind of bright, I'm going to grab the whole layer with my arrow tool and drag it out this way so that we get a little bit less of that dark blue. Okay, but that's the start of my water there. Now we need a shadow underneath our foamy layer. So to do that, we're going to go to our layer menu. We're going to make a duplicate of our layer 1. So slide to the left on that and hit duplicate. Grab the bottom one. I'm going to click on that layer, turn on alpha lock. And we just want alpha lock on because we're going to recolor it. We're going to recolor to this first color on the bottom row. So find that, go back to your layer menu, click on this layer with alpha lock on and click fill layer. You don't see anything happen because it's below our top layer. And now we're going to click the N on this layer and set it to multiply. That's going to give us a good shadow color. So I'm going to grab it with my arrow tool. I'm going to drag it straight down a little bit, maybe straight down or down into the right or kind of whatever you want to do there. I'm just going to go maybe straight down a little bit. I have snapping turned on in the bottom left, which is kind of making it harder for me to get where I want it. So I'm going to turn that off. But just move it straight down a smidge. You can leave a gap between some of your stuff if you want, so you can go down a little further, kind of whatever works. So I'm going to go down maybe about here. I like the way it looks in my water. It looks a little crazy on my sand. We'll fix that in a second. But I like the way it looks on my water with a nice kind of gap through everything. Okay, so now on my layer menu, I'm going to go back to this layer that we just moved and turn off alpha lock. So we're just going to stay on this layer though, and we're going to add to it now. So I'm going to go back and switch back to my dry ink brush again and stay on the same color, this first color on the bottom row. And essentially, since we moved it down, we might have some stuff at the top that needs to be adjusted. So like right here, that one's not as easy to see, but right here you can see where there's this straight cutoff where it went off the screen. And now we moved it down so we see that edge, kind of the same thing here too, this really straight edge. I'm just going to like extend that and pretend that it continues there, just kind of however you need to do that. So, you know, this wouldn't have such a straight line. It's probably just coming from this piece here, so it would extend upwards. This would extend upwards a little bit underneath that piece. So just kind of envision what that would look like at the top and just extend everything upwards that got cut off. Or if you have anything on the side too, if you moved it to the side, you might have like a harsh edge off the side. So just, you know, draw that stuff off the edge there. Like I actually do have some over here. I moved it to the right a little bit. So just extend everything off the edge as well as it naturally would, so that it looks more complete. I'm only doing that for the stuff in the water. We're going to make a lot of adjustments to the stuff in the sand here. So essentially, I'm going to kind of get rid of all of my sand stuff and redraw it. So same layer, I'm going to grab my selection tool. I'm going to set it to freehand, make sure color fills turn off. I'm actually just going to cut through the sand here, or the shadow of the sand. So anything that's not my water. So I'm going to cut right at the edge there, and then I'm going to draw around the bottom of it and connect back to the beginning so that that's all selected. Grab it with my arrow tool and drag it off the screen. So essentially I'm just getting rid of all that stuff that was covered in the sand. Same layer, we're just going to switch our color to the second one on the bottom row, and we're going to do, with the same brush, we're going to make a shadow for the sand now. So I'm just going to draw along the edge of the sand and through the sand there on the same layer here, closer to the edge of the sand. So we brought that shadow out for our water quite a bit, but our sand shadow is going to be really short because it's just right next to it, whereas the water is like deeper and the shadow goes lower. But our sand, the stuff on our sand is really close to it. So I'm just drawing a really close shadow on the lower side of all of the foam there that goes over my sand. So you can kind of mess with that as much as you would like to. Make sure not to draw over any of this. If you do, it's not the end of the world, but it just changes the color of it a little bit. So just trying to stick right towards that bottom edge of the sand. Change the size of your brush if you need to. But that's essentially what that is going to look like now. So we have our water shadows, we have our sand shadows. Okay, I don't want the shadow to be quite as dark. So I'm going to go to my layer menu, click the M on this layer, and drag the opacity of this layer down just a little bit to maybe like 80%. Okay, now we can add some more stuff to the water. So let's keep going. I'm going to go above my layer 3 here, which is my clipping mask that's clipped to my water layer. I'm going to add a layer above that. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask as well. And then click the N, and this time we're going to switch it to soft light. So again, new layer on our clip to our water underneath both of our little foamy layers and on soft light. And the color that we're going to use for this is the third one on the bottom row. We're going to switch our brush this time to the soft airbrush underneath our airbrushing category. The thinner one down here. So not the soft brush at the top, but the thinner soft airbrush. My opacity will be at 100, size at maybe like 50%. And I'm just going to go through and draw just some like wavy lines through the water, kind of really. So you can make some kind of thicker ones, thinner ones, but we're just adding some kind of definition or some kind of movement and flow to the water. So just some quick lines kind of all over to add that. We're going to keep on going. Next thing we're going to do is add some like twinkle or dots to the water that look kind of like reflections. So in my layer menu, I'm going to add a new layer. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask again to my water layer there. So we're above our other two clipping masks. Click the N on this layer and set it to add this time. Same color. I'm going to switch back to my dry ink brush. I might lower the size of my brush to like 20%. And I'm just going to go through and add some little like groups of like little dots and ovals, kind of just like this. So like a little group there. Then maybe I'll go down here and add like another little just kind of group. Maybe a little grouping like here, up here. Just kind of a few of those wherever. And we're going to lower the opacity on this as well, but we're going to start with it like this till we get a few that we want. Maybe even just some smaller groups. You can go over the shadows or next to the shadows, whatever you want to do. But a good amount of that. Then we're going to go to our layer menu, click the A on this layer to open up our options, and lower the opacity on that one pretty low to like 10 or 20%. Really, really low, but we just wanted a little bit of that there as well. Okay, lastly in the water, we're going to add some twinkles to just give it just a little bit of shine. Nothing crazy, but on our layer menu, let's just add a layer to the very top. Grab our whitish color again, first one on the second row, and this time we're going to switch our brush to, under the luminance category, the flare brush. I'm going to have the opacity at 100, size at like somewhere between like 15 and 20. I'm going to go around 15. I'm just going to make a quick like twinkle in the water somewhere, maybe like 2 of them. I'll turn my canvas a little bit so the twinkle changes direction. Maybe add another one there. So maybe just like 2 of those just to kind of add in a couple spots, and we will leave those as is. So change the size if you don't like the size, if you want them smaller or bigger or whatever you want to do, but just add like 2 or 3 of those at most. And once the twinkles are in place, that is it for our water part. So now we can move on to the sand and finishing that off. So I'm going to go to my layer menu. I'm going to add a layer, drag it all the way to the bottom of my layers. So we're underneath our water layer there, right above our background color. We are going to grab the second color on the top row. And the first thing that we're going to do is add just like a layer of texture to the sand with this color. So I'm going to go to my charcoal brush and I'm going to pick the charcoal block. And my opacity for that's at 100, size at maybe 30. And I'm just going to pretty lightly kind of just roll through this whole area, just like one good time so that we get the texture. You can do like vertically or horizontally, really whichever works, but just to add some good texture there. If you keep going over and over and over, it'll just kind of like lose all the texture. So just like one good layer to get that texture in there, like so. Then again, we'll switch back to our dry ink brush at like 20%. I'm going to go through and just add a few little kind of speckles through the sand. So this color will be our first color. We're going to do this again with 2 more colors, a darker and a lighter. But this one being like the same color as the texture we just laid down is just going to add even more texture to those areas where you can still see some of the background color through. So we're just doing a good amount of this to kind of add to it. Then we're going to stay on the same layer. We're just going to switch to this lighter color now, third one on the top row, and go through and add some of that again. So again, just kind of groupings of like little speckly pieces like this. Just kind of whatever works to add some more texture down there. You can go over the other ones that you drew even in that first color. That's fine, whatever works. So a good amount of that lighter color. Then we'll switch to our darker color, fourth one on the top row. And this time we're going to up the size of our brush a little bit to like maybe 40% to give us some bigger chunks. So I'm going to make some kind of bigger chunks together to look almost like more like rocks maybe or pebbles. So just kind of some bigger sections of those, but just a few of them. Okay. Now we can add our starfish, which is going to be the last thing that we do. So I'm going to go to my layer menu. I'm going to go ahead and add a layer to the very top of our layers. So a new layer up there. I'm going to grab our first pinkish color, the fourth one on the bottom row. And I'm going to switch back to my monoline brush so that we get some smooth edges. So my monoline brush at 30%. And we're just going to draw a starfish. If you need to draw a star shape first, you can. So you can just do the generic kind of star shape like this. And then we'll just kind of make everything a little rounder and thicker and fill it in as we go. So we'll just kind of round the edges, round the tips of these, kind of just going off of that. So something kind of like that. Okay, so there's one there. Then we'll do another one maybe over here, like a smaller one. So again, I'll start with that kind of star shape. Around everything, fill it in, smooth it out as I go. Okay, so there's my 2 starfish. You can add 3 even if you want, and I feel like I might want another small one off to the left here, so I'm going to do one more small one. I made it like a weird flat shape, but that's okay. So they're all a little bit different. Also, if you wanted to, since they're all in the same layer, if you want to rotate or move or resize any of them, you can. You can use your selection tool on freehand with color fill turned off, and you could say select around this one, click it with your arrow tool to select, and then you can move it, rotate it, resize it, anything you want. I might just move mine up a little bit so they're a little bit more staggered. So do that if you need to, or you can, like, this one's kind of really close to that dark spot and I don't want that necessarily. So kind of just whatever works, move them around if you need to. Now we're going to add some texture and details to them. So on my layer menu, I'm going to click on this layer, turn on alpha lock, and we're going to draw right on this layer. So I'm going to grab my lighter color now, the 5th one on the bottom row, And I'm going to go back to my charcoal brush again. So the charcoal block, we're going to lower the size a ton to like 3% or so. And I'm just going to roll through the center of this, kind of leaving the edges a little exposed still. So we just really lighten up the centers there. But we'll go through with a darker color on the edges as well. But just again, trying to kind of like avoid those edges, adding a little texture through the center and a little bit of kind of like a highlight. Then we'll switch to our darker color, sixth one on the bottom row, and back to our dry ink brush under the inking category at like 20%. And I'm going to go through and just hit the edges first. So like kind of just like whatever the lower edges would be. So like the bottom kind of edges, depending on what's facing you. So then these top ones would be like hit by the light. So I'm going to leave those alone. So again, just kind of like the bottom edges facing you. Just kind of whatever works for that to give them some more definition like so. And then we're going to add a little design to them as well. So then I'm going to drop my size maybe to 10%, and I'm going to add a little star in the center. So kind of like just a line going towards each leg, like so. And then maybe some dots coming off of those. So like a dot all the way down. Lower your size anymore if you need to, but I'm okay with them being a little bit bigger like this. But yeah, just some dots going towards the ends. Next one, same thing. I'll just start in the center. Line, 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 and then dots. And next one, line, 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 dots. However many you can fit. This one's a little smaller, some of the legs, so maybe I can only fit 2 on some and 3 on others. Okay, so that kind of finishes off their little designs there. Those look really good. Lastly, we just need a small shadow around them. So I'm just going to go back to my shadow layer. It's the one set to multiply that has our like foam design on it, but the darker one underneath it set to multiply. Alpha Lux should be off. Just double check that it is. And then we're going to stay on that same layer. We're going to grab that sand like shadow color, the second one on the bottom row. And I'm just going to, again, with my same dry ink brush at 10%, just slightly go around again, like kind of the bottom edges of this that would cast a shadow there. So just anything closer to you and pretty close to the shape. They're not casting a huge shadow, just a small one there. So something like that. And then that is it for our drawing today. So I hope that you had fun. I hope that you like the way that yours turned out. I hope you maybe learned something new. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and let me know what you thought down below in the comments or what you might like to see for a future tutorial. The likes and comments really help out my channel, so I really appreciate it. I would also love to see how yours turn out. So if you want to post it on Instagram, go ahead and tag me there so that I can check it out. And while you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so that you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching.